Oh, yeah, thank you for joining me today. I've just actually been looking at your blog, your website, which is Green Treasures Farms, right?
Yes.
And looking at what Youth4Nature does. But yeah, maybe in your own words, can you introduce yourself and just talk about the work you're doing at the moment?
Sure. Thank you, very nice. My full name is Kaluki Paul Mutuku, and you may call me Kaluki. I'm a climate activist and environmental defender based out of Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. And yeah, those organizations are correct. Those are groups that I'm engaging in. So I'm the founder of Green Treasures Farms. And the vision behind Green Treasures Farms is to intensify environmental sustainability by working with youth and women in rural Kenya to engage in matters sustainable development, and by exposing them really through simple things we can do in the environment to reverse degradation but also sustain our livelihoods. And we do this through training around water conservation, around organic farming, tree growing, and also really blogging. So I also do some blogging and train people around the power of using blogs and writing to influence change. On the other side, I'm the Africa director at Youth4Nature, and Youth4Nature is an international youth-led and youth-focused organization that empowers, educates, and mobilizes youth to lead on solutions to the ecological and climate crises that are grounded in justice and in community and that are backed in science. And yeah, in Africa, our main focus is on land restoration and seeing how we can create an opportunity for youth to actively and meaningfully participate in restoration and in taking action against the changing climate.
Wow, great. And could you tell me, like, how did you get into this work? I did start to read your story actually on your website, but yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
I think there are many stories about me, but maybe for the context here, I'll talk about my partial upbringing in rural Kenya. So um, our our area is to the east of the country, and mostly just it borders, the greener and the drier parts of the country. So we sort of in between there, and characterized by several, months of drought and dry conditions, and these usually, makes most people engage in extravism from nature. So trying to get all the, different natural resources from nature without replenishing it, and that has been the huge contributor towards degradation and communities in my place contributing to climate change and biodiversity loss. And so out of this, I've been able to sort of, find inspiration in working with women and youth to just create education and awareness on what you need to do actually to bring back water if water is your issue, and bring back biodiversity if biodiversity loss is your issue. So through these things, and get people to enhance their livelihoods by protecting nature and by just being conscious about the actions and the responsibility we have on nature while dealing on our day-to-day activities.
So, what are, yeah, you've talked about this degradation and how people maybe, I don't know, don't think ahead, right, when they need to extract resources. And what are some of the other biggest issues right now in Kenya?
Hmm.
It's
A
a big
lot.
question, sorry.
It is, but I think there's a bit of, yes, ignorance that and not definite ignorance. I think to me it's ignorance, arrogant ignorance, where you just don't want to know things. You don't want to do things because you don't want to do that, and that is dangerous. And you find that across most educated people, not even the grassroots that, are perceived as the major culprits in degradation and destruction of nature. So you find most of the educated and the elite parts of our society today are the ones actually responsible for most degradation, because people will actually come to harvest sand from um, a wetland or a river ecosystem. And this harvesting, number one, is catastrophic, because it it sort of results in drying up of rivers, because this sand is the very one that holds most of the water in our systems. It also is responsible for most of the aquatic biodiversity loss, because if you take away some of this, the sand and the sand materials, you actually are scooping away so much water-based biodiversity. You're killing some of the eggs and some of the offsprings from the marine and from the aquatic rather organisms. And then there's the issue of charcoal burning, where also most of the empowered people actually engage in it because it's an easy income generating activities, whereas a local farmer in Kenya would engage in this to maybe give them some subsistence charcoal for their, or firewood for their domestic use. But most elite and educated people and empowered people actually do that for business. So actually, the arrogant ignorance is what is a big problem here. And obviously, Kenya is still grappling with the pandemic. So COVID is still a crisis right now. And actually, we just opened our movements after several rounds of curfews and lockdowns. And this is the COVID situation has obviously like rendered most people homeless, because they can't pay bills. Most have been retrenched from work because companies can't sustain them. And even there have been some, domestic violence that has been recorded because, people are together, they're frustrated, they can't communicate well, and then they end up fighting. Some are deadly. We've had casualties. And so these are all things happening. And the mother of all of them, climate change, it's as much a reality in Kenya as it is in other parts of the world. And the point is, we still try to create awareness and find ways on how we can engage one another, and, just keep moving and doing something about it.
Wow, yes. So there's all these multiplying crises on top of each other, right? And yeah, I can't imagine the economic impact this pandemic is going to have, really. But maybe you've seen that picture where there's the pandemic as one tidal wave and then climate change as the really, really big one behind it. Uh, so, what about on the psychological dimension of that? Do you, are there any kind of mechanisms or anything that is helping people to get through these times?
Mhm. Yeah, and maybe I'll use myself as an example, a case in point. So I think when COVID set in, first I was already working from the house and online work. That's how we work at Youth4Nature. Uh, but then I think when the whole pandemic set in, and there was a session of movement, and you couldn't just interact with people. Then there was this new era of putting masks on. Um, I think it was highly depressing, and for almost 6 months, I didn't step out of the house because of that fear that you likely step out of the house. Your country is a third world country. They're not well prepared to tackle this crisis. They don't have the personnel and the machinery to really take care of the population. So for that, I mostly was in the house, and that was really a depressing moment. But after 6 months, I started reaching out to friends and people that are in my circle. And what we've been doing is that we've been trying to go out to nature, and, for nature walks, for campings, and if just moments to hang out in nature, and let ourselves feel free out of the busy lives and the concentrations in the cities. And it's been, I think, an easy way to deal with psychological issues and also engage in the mental health side of things. So at least it's been working for me and the people that I know, and I would encourage everyone to at least try this, because I think nature has a lot to give us, but we also have a responsibility to take care of it so that it can do all these many functions to us.
Mm, I love this because everyone I talk to all over the world, I think, said that connecting to nature helped them through these pandemic times, you know? So I like to hope that humanity is starting to wake up more to how we're interconnected with nature. I don't know if you feel that where you are, but yeah, generally, like before the pandemic and now, how would you say people's feeling of connection to nature is in Kenya? Is it like we are connected to nature, or is it more of the, nature is a resource to extract from?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a big question, and I saw that because I think COVID has exposed many inconsistencies in our systems, and just from the example I was telling you, where you find the poor and the grassroots, the peasants are the ones always blamed for driving biodiversity laws, but actually, when you look at even Kenya, the way we are, like most of these ancestral and indigenous territories are the ones that have been highly protected and preserved. And these are areas where most of these quote unquote so-called poor communities live in. So what COVID has done is actually it's helped us understand that actually the grassroots and the peasants are really responsible to and are responsible custodians of our natural system. So we only need to engage with them so that we can enhance and learn from them on how we can better deal with nature and protect it. On the other side, I think the government has also opened up and like lowered some of the fees, entry fees to our parks and our green space, which I think is a good thing. So then, with the realization that actually we need nature more, they've been able to wake up a bit and allow citizens easy access to some of these parks. But then on the other side, there's still development that is also encroaching and eating into the green spaces. So I think to me it is a question of double standards where we qualify some evil to be necessary and try to like put a blind spot on that by giving people some easy access to some areas, but then also destroying others. So I think it's a bit of it goes both ways, but definitely communities and local communities are doing so much to protect the environment. And I don't see anything that has changed before, like to the worst from the grassroots side, but the government is a bit on the, both sides. You one side protecting, on one side you're also trying to encroach into it under the guise of development.
Yeah, that's always the battle, right? Because development always involves destroying some natural area. Yeah. And of course, when people are worried about the economy, development sounds like a positive thing to them,
Mhm.
maybe. So I'd like to just zoom in on your work a little bit more. So with Youth4Nature, yeah, can you tell me a bit about what you have been doing recently? Like, for example, I saw maybe you were involved with this summit, right? The IUC and Global Youth Summit, for example.
Yeah. Yes, there've been a couple of things that we've been doing both globally and regionally. So maybe I'll mention one global and then one regional. So globally, the term nature-based solution has uh, sort of like gained momentum, at least since the 2019 United Nations SG Summit in New York, and many groups from the IUCN to CBD and many key groups have been using that term and championing for it as we get to the new UN decade on ecosystem restoration. But the same term has also gained a lot of controversies because we see big oil corporations and polluters actually using it to co-opt and then to them, they are pushing for, we have to engage in tree planting as our nature-based approach to the climate solution so that we can mitigate the effects of our pollution and our, fossil fuel extraction. So to that end, Youth4Nature and other key youth global organizations, specifically YUNGO, which is the youth constituency, and the UNFCCC, and Global Youth Biodiversity Network, which is the global youth constituency to the Convention on Biological Diversity, came together to interrogate nature-based solutions as a term in its definition, the opportunities, the risks, and the threats that come with the use of the term, and actually create a platform of understanding the youth potential to define the term and to give our own perspectives on the same. So in the just concluded IUCN Youth Summit, we had like some panels and some sessions that were youth-led by Youth4Nature and other organizations. And in one of the sessions called the Nature-Based Solutions or Nature-Based Excuses, we managed to present this youth position paper, and we've launched it on our website, and we are already launched like an international youth survey to like at least have an understanding on what young people know about nature-based solutions, what are the working solutions at the local level, and then what are the ways they can propose that we define it moving forward so that there are no inconsistencies. And then we plan to actually launch a youth policy position paper sometimes at least before the COP26, to at least to help the world understand that young people are not just naive, we are responsible leaders of today, and we can actually help address these nature-based solutions and other issues affecting the policy and practice spaces for us from anywhere in the world. And then regionally, we have been running like a project called Youth Spotlight Series, cognizant of the fact that when it comes to activism and advocacy, youth in the global south are highly disadvantaged. And when we get the spaces to showcase our works, it's usually just to tick the box that you are Black or you are from Africa, you're from Latin America, but really you don't get enough attention as your counterparts in Europe and the US, for instance. So the Youth Spotlight series seeks to like break those barriers and give the space to young people in Africa that are doing a lot to, reverse biodegradation, to reverse the climate crisis, and then also just get a platform to amplify their voices, help them connect with other people that are doing other related things in different parts of the world. And also, if there are people that would want to dedicate some resources to these youth initiatives, just give them a platform to also hear from these young people and then connect with them. And so, yeah, this is a program that we've started this year, and we hope we'll sustain it and we'll be able to scale it up and replicate it in other parts of uh, the world that Youth4Nature has a presence. And if there are any partners that want to also do the same, we are also open to collaborate and just bring together the youth movement from an equity perspective.
Great. Yeah, I completely agree with you that, Global South voices need to be amplified, because I find so many regeneration podcasts, and it's all Europe and America, and it's very, very biased, but we don't get to hear much what's happening in Africa or in Asia, for example. So, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Okay, I'll just ask you one last question then, looking at the time. Um, what's the vision you have of the future that motivates you?
That's a good question to end. I think my vision for the future would be um, a harmonious world where we are one with nature, and where capitalism doesn't define us, but nature is our economy. We get resources out of nature in a sustainable way, but we give more to revitalize nature. Like, who is our mother, who is our source of life, and who is our inspiration for the future generations that we live and bequeath this all to. So I think my whole thing is a world where we're at peace with one another. There are no crises anymore, and people are more kind, more generous, more loving, and like putting nature at the center of development and at the center of every kind of engagements we are deliberating upon.
That sounds like the same vision I have, so let's hope we can dream it into existence, right? Thank you so much for talking to me. And is there anything else you'd like to say or share before we end?
Maybe just to congratulate you for this platform that you're creating. I hope it takes off well and many people are able to connect with it and that they're able to contribute with your vision and just the opportunity to tell our stories differently and to connect with one another because I mean we are one humanity. It doesn't matter your creed, your race, your religion, or anything. As long as we can see ourselves from a point of humanity first, then we can achieve so much together for humanity, for nature, and for the climate system.
Thank you so much.